Shalom, shalom, and welcome back to another edition of Black Thoughts and Reflection. I am Makoto, and I want to welcome you all and want to have a candid conversation with our people about the conflict, the war, and over there in Israel, between Israel and the Palestinians. This is not going to be a conversation for the faint at heart. This is not a conversation that we could just rush through. I think that it's imperative that we have the conversation because a lot of us are ignorant to the real deal and what's going on over there. A lot of us believe that we have no dog in the race. A lot of us believe that it's not our business. Well, throughout the course of this podcast, this message to you all, I'm going to show you why it should be important to you and why you should pay attention to the outcomes and what's being declared over in what they call now the Middle East. I want to start today with sharing with you an article that was just published about 3 hours ago, and it basically summarizes what's happening now with the state of Israel. I want to be clear, this is not about bashing one person or one people's group. This is about reporting the news and bringing the facts. And then I'm going to add my commentary to the things that I bring forward. So well in advance, we're going to say fair use for educational purposes. And let me make sure I go ahead and share that for the social media platforms. So this content won't be taken down for any reason. This is educational purposes. We've made that clear. I want to go ahead and have you read along with me. This article, like I said, was just published a couple of hours ago. Thank you in advance for watching and paying attention. This is not something that we're going to just fly through. We're going to take our time. We're going to slow walk this information for overstanding and for edification. Chaotic meeting with Israel war cabinet fuels hostage families' anger and fear. So if you don't know, Hamas took a number of individuals hostage on October 7th, and Israel has been trying to negotiate those hostages to be set free. So today, well, probably yesterday, but they're reporting on it today, they had a meeting in Tel Aviv, a meeting between the families of those still being held by Hamas and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's war cabinet. Became chaotic as arguments erupted over the best way to free the remaining hostages, one participant told NBC News. As Israel expands its assault on southern Gaza, tension soared as attendees, which included some who were recently freed by the militant group, disagreed with both the government and one another over the negotiations to free more of their loved ones said the participant who was not authorized to speak publicly about the meeting on Tuesday. So that was on yesterday. Less than 24 hours later, a group representing the families released a letter demanding that the government reach a deal for the immediate release of their family members, a sign of their mounting dismay at the apparent decision to prioritize the military campaign over their relatives' well-being. There were also heated debates over which hostages should be given priority for release: young women, the elderly, or military-aged men, the participants said, adding that at one point, one family member held up an hourglass to emphasize that the time is running out. Recordings of the meetings leaked to multiple Israel media outlets and verified by NBC captured the tensions in the room. One woman, identified as a recently released hostage, said her husband, who's still being held in Gaza, was punching himself in the face because he could not stand the conditions he was living in. Accusing the government of putting politics over the hostages' return, her voice shaking, she said, "All you're thinking about is collapsing Hamas," adding, "Give them back whoever they want and bring everybody back." In a separate recording, another freed hostage accused Netanyahu of playing roulette with their lives and called for the release of more Palestinian prisoners in order to free the remaining Israel hostages. Hamas and other militant sides seized around 247 hostages during their deadly October 7 attack on southern Israel, which left around 1,200 people dead. In return, Israel pummeled the Gaza Strip, killing at least 15,000 people, many of them women and children, according to health authorities in the enclave, which is controlled by Hamas. Throughout the military campaign, Netanyahu has been notably absent from public view as his military chiefs give daily news conferences. His poll ratings have also slumped, as many blame him for failing to protect Israel from Hamas assault. While a week-long ceasefire led to the exchange of dozens of hostages held by Hamas, 4 scores of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel, fighting resumed after the truce gave way Friday, dealing a blow to the families of those remaining in captivity. Ruby Chen, whose 19-year-old son, Italy, was working for the Israeli military when he was captive, attended Wednesday's meeting with Netanyahu in his war cabinet. Tensions were high, Chen, 55, said, and the cabinet members told the families that Israel's government had no one to negotiate with. The Israeli government claims that we need to go back to the military option and wait until Hamas comes back to talk to us. I don't think that's correct, he said. I think that today, if you put an offer on the table, someone will listen. He added that there was someone to negotiate with last week, so what has changed? The only thing that has changed is that the Israeli War Cabinet has decided that it doesn't want to negotiate for whatever reason, he said. In a statement issued after the meeting, Netanyahu said he fully shared the deep concern of the families whose loved ones are still being held in Gaza. He added that the government is working to bring home hostages, male and female soldiers, male and female civilians, young and old, everyone without exception. His statement appeared to pass little muster with the Hostages and Missing Families Forum, a campaign group that has hosted news conferences, briefed journalists, and met with President Joe Biden and other world leaders, and which sent a pointed letter to the Israeli War Cabinet. They quoted Professor Hagi Levine, doctor who is leading the forum's medical team, as saying that there was solid intelligence that there are hostage conditions has deteriorated and who are now in immediate danger of life due to untreated injuries or illnesses. Levine added that at least a third of the hostages previous illnesses that require treatment, while others suffered serious injury in October 7th attack, including gunshot wounds, amputations, and shrapnel penetration. After 61 days, the Israeli government says 138 hostages are still being held in Gaza, 20 of them women, and 10 are over the age of 75. Asked if the Israeli government will consider offering rewards or amnesty if the groups holding hostages release them, government spokesperson Ilan Levy rejected the idea, saying, "Our strategy at the moment to get the hostages home is based on unrelenting military pressure on Hamas." It was not the response that the response Chin was hoping for, and he had a warning for his country's leaders. "We are telling the Israeli government, you think you have a chance to stay in power. You start negotiating now," he said. "It's not just that we don't have any time. The Israeli people that are behind the families will understand that they're being played. The war cabinet, each and every one of them needs to understand." And so that was the article that was featured. Where is this coming from? From NBC News. Now, that article mentioned several things that I had already planned to speak about. Number one being the humanitarian crisis that's going on over there in Israel right now as we speak. Now, we all know that the whole Judaism religion was ordained by the Pope, right? You all know of the Roman Catholic Empire, the Roman Catholic Church being the head of the Roman Empire, and how they so-called coined the phrase Christianity. Well, while Christianity doing this thing, they had this other group of people who now as being Islamics, right? They worship as a form of religion. We all call them Islam, right? The Islamic faith, right? So once Christianity was an establishment, and then we had the Islamic faith, their establishment, well, the so-called, what I like to say, Knights Templar, Rosicrucians, Jesuits, wanted to have their own thing. And thus, the Pope gave them permission to do what? Judaism, which is what these Jewish people over coming from Europe, the foothills of Russia, out of the Caucasus Mountain, they are Judists practicing Judaism under the authorization of the Pope. Now, why did I say all that? Why did I preface all of that? Where you see here on this title of this next article, it says that Jewish groups asked Pope Francis to clarify Israel terrorism comments. Round about November 24th, the Pope made some comments in regards to the war that's going on in Gaza right now. And here's what the article states. Jewish groups are criticizing Pope Francis for appearing to accuse both Israel and Hamas of terrorism in their ongoing war that started October 7th. This is what wars do, the Pope said at his general audience in St. Peter's Square on Wednesday. But here we have gone beyond wars. This is not war. This is terrorism. Francis's comments follow separate meetings with Jewish relatives of hostages held by Hamas and Palestinians with family in Gaza on Wednesday. His remarks come a month after he called on Hamas to free the hostages being held, and weeks after calling for a ceasefire and for more Palestinian aid. Naomi Di Segni, the president of the Union of the Jewish Committee in Italy, issued a statement Wednesday saying that she would have preferred Francis had issued a clear condemnation of October 7th. Certainly, we cannot equate the responsibilities of those who have a design of extermination and terror versus those who are defending themselves and defending the entire country in a community that includes both Muslims and Palestinians, Designing said. In a statement published on the official website of the Jewish community of Milan, the Council of the Assembly of Italian Rabbis charged the Pope with publicly accusing both sides of terrorism. In a post on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, the American Jewish Committee expressed gratitude for the Pope's meeting with the families of the hostages and calling for their release, while also criticizing his other remarks. Hamas butchering and kidnapping of civilians is terrorism. Israel's self-defense is not, the AJC wrote. Vatican, please clarify. Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, Archbishop of Bologna, but I know the word, Bologna, defended Francis on Thursday. The Pope is careful, Zuppi told reporters, and look, this does not mean putting everyone on the same level. It is not that he does not understand the motivation of Israel's government, Zuppi added. Following Francis' meeting with 10 Palestinians on Wednesday, a dispute also arose as to whether he used the word genocide to describe the situation in Gaza, Reuters reported. Palestinian participants in the news conference say that they heard him use the word, while a statement sent by Vatican spokesperson Matteo Bruni said he did not. Okay, so Pope Francis is accused of using the word genocide. He's also accused of not condemning the acts of Hamas on October 7th. The Jewish people are saying that the Pope's comment on Israel being terrorists, the IDF being terrorists, is incorrect. They're simply defending themselves. Well, I spoke about the humanitarian crisis. I'm going to let the guest, this guy was a guest on Candace Owens' podcast, and I'm going to let him speak to the humanitarian crisis, and then I'm going to follow that up with what we here in the United States are saying about the whole crisis and how we are being misled by our government into thinking that we should not stand for human rights, that we should just get along with the Jewish occupiers. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video, and I'm going to let this gentleman speak for a while because he makes some very important points. Now, whether you like Candace Owens or not, I think that it was extremely brave of her to bring this gentleman on and let him speak to what he knows about the history between the Palestinians and the state of Israel, as well as his personal involvement with the Jewish people. Now, I'm sure this gentleman is going to receive a lot of backlash. Not quite sure if he's going to be able to continue to make his rounds on these Jewish-owned media platforms. But shouts out to Candace for going after the truth and doing real journalistic work.
believe that you as a mother would say it's manipulative, it's demagogic for me to say it's not when a country has of denying a population food, water, fuel, electricity. That is not complicated. So I won't even allow for the option of saying, well, I'm ignorant. I don't, sorry, it doesn't require a lot of knowledge. And at the risk of offending some listeners, if you saw Jews being shoved into gas chambers, it would not require a lot of knowledge to know there's something awry here, something very egregiously, horribly going on. Every hospital in Gaza now has been disabled. Every hospital has been disabled. You're an expectant mother. Do you really have doubts, questions, reservations, qualms about whether that is right? Every few years, literally every few years, Israel has a policy of what it calls mowing the lawn in Gaza. I've written quite a lot on those mowings of the lawn, but I have a question for you. And I do not believe these are rhetorical questions. These are factual questions. How do you, as a human being, as a woman, as a mother, how would you react to the usage of that phrase, mowing the lawn of a people, when 1.1 million of those people are children? Do you get that? Mowing the lawn of 1.15 million children. Now, that may be the first time you've heard that expression.
It is.
But I've heard it for years and years and years. And nobody even bats an eyelash at that expression, to mow the lawn in Gaza. In 2008, 2009, Operation Cast Lead mowed the lawn, killed 350 children. 2014, Operation Protective Edge, they mowed the lawn again, killed 500 children. And now they're mowing the lawn again and have killed 4,000 to date, 4,500 children. They make up these stories that we have to turn off the incubators in the hospitals because there's a Hamas command and control center in the base, most recently, of Al-Shifa Hospital. And then the spokesperson for our U.S. Department of Defense, John Kirby, He gives a news conference 3 days ago, and he says, we have intelligence information confirming that there is a Hamas command and control center. And that justifies in the minds of the public opinion that then it's okay to deny fuel to the incubators. Imagine you, Candice. Your child is born prematurely and is put in an incubator where the fuel is cut off, and your child that you've been carrying for 9 months suffocates to death. Was there a Hamas command and control center in Gaza? Answer, no. Was Hamas's leadership in the basement of Al-Shifa Hospital? Answer, no. Were there hostages beneath Al-Shifa Hospital? Answer, no. You just get the lies and more lies and more lies and more lies. And attendant upon those nonstop lies are the cessation, the termination of life. Because of the lies, the termination of life of thousands of Palestinian children. Is that complicated? Does it require a PhD in Middle East studies to figure these things out? In my book, at the risk of offending some people in the audience, and maybe that's why I react as I do when I see these things unfold before my eyes, it's as complicated as Jews, like my parents' mother on both sides, father on both sides, sisters and brothers on both sides. It's as complicated as my family, except for my mother and my father, being shoved into gas chambers. That's how complicated it is in my eyes. That government in Israel, in cahoots with our own government, spread the lies about Hamas's command and control center to justify denying the fuel for the incubators. Now, I'll tell you something, Candice. I live in an apartment building. I go into my elevator, and there will be a parent with the kids. And I look at the kids, and like an old man that I am, I say hello to the kids, smile to the kids. And all of a sudden, I get overcome with this sick feeling because I look at the kid, and then I see those pictures from Gaza. I see those incubators. With all due regard to your audience, sorry, not complicated.
Okay, so you all heard what he just said in regards to the acts of genocide on the Palestinian people. Those who are living in the land right now, who are elderly, who are sickly, brand new people to come into the world, infants, are now at risk because the Israeli government is hell-bent on taking down Hamas, wherever they may be. Now, you all remember when Netanyahu first declared war on Gaza. I want to bring up this article because the gentleman mentioned mowing of the grass. And I'm going to refer to this article because it just recently came out in the jewishpress.com. So this is a Jewish-run website reporting on the topic of mowing the grass. This gentleman is not far off. Let me go back and let me grab his name so you guys can go and look him up and research him. Yes, he is a child, a descendant of individuals who were in Auschwitz. That's the concentration camp in Germany during the time of World War II, being held by the Nazi government. I'm trying to see what's this gentleman's name. Norman Finkelstein. His name is Norman Finkelstein. So if you go back to Candace Owens' podcast on YouTube and you look for the title of the video, Israel versus Palestine with Norman Finkelstein, you can hear more about him and how he's deeply rooted in the Jewish community, being that he is a descendant of those who were placed in concentration camps during World War II. He has a lot of insight and a lot of experience and a lot of history, and he's an historian, and he's a professional at what he does in researching the Israeli and Palestinian relations. So I want to go to this article. Let's read this. The end of mowing the grass. If Israel wants to continue to exist, it must uproot Hamas from Gaza. This came out October 24th, 17 days after the Hamas went into Israel on October 7th. This article came out. So here go again, the concept of mowing the grass. But they want to end it, but in order to end it, they must uproot Hamas. Now, you heard the gentleman say that Hamas was supposed to be having this underground base in the basement, underground operation in the basement of the hospital there, one of the largest hospitals in Palestine. So it says a decade ago in 2013, I published an article with Professor Ephraim Inbar entitled Mowing the Grass. In it, we explain the Israeli rationale behind various rounds of conflict in Gaza. We discussed the lack of a better alternative to ground incursions into Gaza, despite the significant losses and harsh international criticism involved. There are never good alternatives in the Middle East conflict. And we argue that regular rounds in which Israel targets enemy capabilities shows its determination to use force and exacts a heavy price, thereby reestablishing deterrence, provided a sufficient course of action at that stage of the ongoing conflict, which had no foreseeable resolution and had to be managed. The events of October 7, 2023 mark a significant departure from the mowing the grass strategy and the limited round approach against adversaries like Hamas in Gaza. There are voices that do not understand this change. For example, well-known Jewish American columnist Thomas Friedman argued in an article in the New York Times on October 16 that Israel should not enter Gaza due to the likelihood of instability there, and that the fact that groups like Hamas, with its deep religious and ideological roots, cannot be completely uprooted. What should be done then? Well, Mr. Friedman, writing from the safety of his home in the United States, has no answer. I don't know, he writes. But we need to stop the fighting and think about alternatives, and instructs us. He instructs us. In stark contrast to what Friedman believes, in the Middle East, there is no place for the weak. Israel has attempted to reach agreements with Hamas, all of which disintegrated because they made Israel appear weak. Deterrence has completely collapsed, and Hamas allowed itself to embark on an immensely vicious and destructive campaign against Israel precisely because it knew people like Friedman would inevitably press Israel not to react to unspeakable provocation. Hamas couldn't care less what the consequences of its attack on Israel will be on the Gazan population. Indeed, their suffering serves their interests. The only thing that threatens Hamas is the destruction of its military capabilities and the loss of its control over Gaza. Israel has an urgent necessity, indeed, a survival imperative, to destroy Hamas's military capabilities and bring about the collapse of its authority in Gaza. It is important to understand the broader implications of this statement. First of all, some things will not change. The principle of deterrence was and will continue to be the most central and fundamental principle in the Israeli security perception. The basic geostrategic situation in the Middle East will not change after the war, even if Israel achieves all the war's objectives. Israel cannot decisively defeat all its enemies and bring them to the point where they will cease to fight, as occurred at the end of World War II. Throughout the history of the State of Israel, the meaning of the principle of deterrence was the removal of an immediate threat to the country and its exacting of a heavy price from the other side to restore and gradually strengthen deterrence, cumulative deterrence. For example, in the Six-Day War, the government decided to take military action that would liberate Israel from the strengthening and surrounding threat. This directive was translated into the IDF's mission. The IDF will destroy the Egyptian Air Force and most of the enemy's forces in the Sinai. As Israel is not capable of defeating or entirely subduing nations, states, and organizations, it was understood that it would have to live by the sword for many years. This is the idea of the Iron Wall, as formulated by Ze'ev Jabotinsky in 1923. Therefore, the Israeli goal was and will continue to be to deter its enemies in order to increase the intervals between wars and, general, try to avoid them as much as possible. On October 7th, Israeli deterrence and warning against Hamas completely failed. As a result of the over-reliance on deterrence and warning, Israel suffered a severe defeat in terms of casualties and property losses. The enemy penetrated its territory, captured its cities and towns, decimated their populations, committed grotesque acts of inhumane savagery on many Israeli civilians and soldiers, and held the towns for a significant number of hours. While security forces managed to regain control of the territory, that achievement was not sufficient to restore deterrence. Even a severe bombing of Gaza is not enough. From Hamas's perspective, as well as that of the resistance axis in parts of the Arab and Muslim world in general, the suffering of Gaza's residents is a small price to pay for the historic achievement that Hamas has obtained in their name. Hamas is a religious political movement that is likely impossible to completely eradicate, but it can be significantly reduced in terms of the threat it poses in specific locations such as Gaza. The only thing that truly threatens and deters Hamas is the loss of its control over Gaza and the loss of its military assets there. The two are closely linked because its military assets ensures its internal control. But a more significant point must be understood. Hamas has achieved one of the most significant accomplishments in Arab resistance against the Zionist project since the fall of Gush Etzan in this old city of Jerusalem at the hands of the Jordanians, accompanied by the expulsion of their Jewish inhabitants and the killing of some of them by the Palestinian Arabs. This achievement is more significant than the gains made during the Egyptian-Syrian combined attack in October 1973. However, briefly, Hamas succeeded in claiming several cities and towns inside the state of Israel that were inhabited by Jews and conducted brutal massacres of those Jews on par with the worst carnage inflicted on Jews since the Holocaust. In so doing, it has significantly undermine the sense of security of Jewish Israelis. The implication is clear and challenging. If the threat in Gaza is not removed from the war's ends, the residents of the border areas will not return to their homes. This may apply to other residents of Israel as well. Due to the shock of Hamas's achievement, Israel was forced to evacuate Lebanese border settlements. Despite the relatively low level of conflict in the area compared to what happened at the Gaza border. For the first time since the establishment of the state, Arab resistance led to the displacement of Jews from areas within Israel's sovereign territory. It might even be permanent. This is an unprecedented achievement of Israel's enemies. In Israel and among Jewish diaspora, there are people who wonder if Israel can continue to exist under such circumstances. Many compare what happened on October 7th to the events of October 6, 1973. I would like to offer another comparison. Consider June 5th, 1967, the outbreak of the Six-Day War. Before that war, Israelis felt a growing sense of encirclement as Arab armies massed on their borders. Many feared it might be the end of Israel. Israel's decisive victory in that war, in which the IDF defeated Arab armies, not only prevented further rounds of conflict, but also sent a clear message that Israel was a strong nation that would exact a heavy price from those who rose against it. This restored a sense of security for Israelis in the world alike. There are several clear reasons to defeat Hamas completely. First, in order to ensure the return of Israeli citizens to their homes, the threat must be completely removed and their sense of security restored. Secondly, if Israel were to end the war without destroying the Hamas regime in Gaza and its military capabilities, it would be seen as success for Hamas. This would serve as a model and inspiration for radical actors in the region who seek elimination of Israel. There is another important consideration. Israel's weakness could also affect the emerging relationships between Israel and the moderate Arab states that had come to the conclusion that Israel is an established finished product in the Middle East, a strong and advanced country that is better to befriend than to fight against. The peace agreements Israel has achieved did not result from revolution, but from recognition. The extradition of Hamas threat, the eradication of the Hamas threat is therefore not solely about Israel's immediate security, but also about regional stability and the perception of Israel and the broader Middle East. All eyes are now on Israel. If Israel can defeat Hamas and dismantle its military capabilities, it will prove its ability to deliver the only punishment possible for the destruction of deterrence. The cost of such an operation against Israel must be clear to everyone. The destruction of the organization or regime that committed the attack. Israel, for its part, can begin the process of rehabilitating the communities around the Gaza Strip, ensuring a reasonable level of security for its residents. Acts of terror will always occur. It is important to emphasize once again that not only Israel's adversaries, but also their regional actors who have reconciled with Israel are watching the outcome. They had certain assumptions about Israel's military strength and capabilities. As noted, there is no room in the Middle East for weakness. This war must not be existential in the immediate sense of a threat to conquer all of Israel's territory, but it is certainly existential in the long-term sense of proving Israel's ability to continue to exist in the region. The powerful Israeli cliff was hit by a tsunami. If Israel does not demonstrate a determination to rebuild and strengthen the foundations of the cliff, it may crumble. So this gentleman is basically saying that they must continue to fight, and that the only way you can end the mowing of the grass is to eradicate Hamas. But Hamas is a government that was duly put in place by the people during their very first democratic election. And we must keep in mind that if we are of the belief that government officials are elected by the people, for the people, then Hamas was elected by its people, meaning Palestinians, for the people, Palestinians. Hamas, some group that was just made up and just decided to go into Israel and take over. No, this is an organization. This is a political organization that was voted into office by the people. And Jimmy Carter himself said in 2006, when they held their first democratic election, he said it was a fair election, meaning that Hamas won the presidential race and sat in the seat as the new government, and the people voted for him. There was no trickery. There was no robbing of the election. There was no nefariousness going on in the election. It was a true democratic election. Hamas won. So I don't understand why these people continue to say they must get rid of Hamas. You don't decide to get rid of Hamas. The people have to vote them out. And from what I can see, the people back Hamas. Now, I'm not going to say all the people, but just like all the people didn't vote them in, but they won the majority vote. Just like now, the majority of the people in Palestine is supporting Hamas. Don't shoot the messenger. It is what it is. So in that interview with Candace Owens, the gentleman also mentioned the point about the hospitals and how, Israel did not want to stop raiding hospitals, looking for hostages or looking for those individuals who were supposedly running the Hamas military operation from the basement of these hospitals. So I want to now turn to how we got here, how the United States and why it matters. How did we get involved in all of this? Not just from the fact that Israel is considered our ally, but we also must consider the fact that the United States has been engaged in warfare against terrorists since since 9/11. Since 9/11. So then I say to you that it matters what's going on over there, and it affects you. Just know that some of us have relatives that serve as part of the United States military. Some of us have families that support those military servicemen and women. That's why it matters. Because anytime the United States says that they support one of their allies and they're going to put their full power behind them, full support behind them, that includes the United States troops, which just happen to be our relatives. So how did we get here? And who gave the authority for Israel to pull us in to this war on terror that they claim allegedly, I think I snapped, that Hamas has terrorized them so much to the point that they have to just declare all-out war on all Palestinians, not just Hamas, all Palestinians. But they tell us that they're looking for Hamas, that they want to take down a duly elected government. Israel wants to take down a duly elected government, and their name is Hamas. That is what we're talking about here. We're not talking about a group of so-called terrorists. This is a organization elected by the people who's supposed to be governing the people. The situation in Israel and Palestine is complex, because even though Palestinians have their own government, they do not have control of their energy. They do not have control of their agriculture. They do not have control of their trade. They do not have control of anything that would make them or have them be a fully sovereign operating nation. You remember before, couple of years back, maybe even 20, 30 years back, they started talking about a two-state solution. Two-state solution, meaning that the Palestinians would have a state and the Israelis would have a state. Well, Israel does not want that. Why? Because they want to be and continue to be in power over all of Palestine. It's an end game. So let me go back to how the United States is able to get into this war, this conflict over there in the Middle East. As I said before, the United States declared war on terrorism after the 9/11 incident, when the so-called terrorists drove two planes into the World Trade Center in New York. It took an act of Congress to go to war, as stated in our Constitution. They cannot just declare war without going to Congress first. Congress have to approve it. So they did. So Public Law 107-40 was instituted on September 18th, 2001. 7 days after the incident on September 11th, 2001. It says here, whereas on September 11, 2001, acts of treacherous violence were committed against the United States and its citizens, and whereas such acts render it both necessary and appropriate that the United States exercise its rights to self-defense and to protect United States citizens both at home and abroad, and whereas in light of the threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States posed by these grave acts of violence, and whereas such acts continue to pose an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States, and whereas the president has authority under the Constitution to take action to deter and prevent acts of international terrorism against the United States, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, Section 1, short title. This joint resolution may be cited as the authorization for U.S. military force. Section 2, authorization for use in the United States Armed Forces. A, in general, that the president is authorized to use all necessary and appropriate force against those nations, organizations, or persons he determines planned, authorized, committed, or aided in the terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001, or harbored such organizations or persons in order to prevent any future acts of international terrorism against the United States by such nations, organizations, or persons. B, war powers resolution requirements. Number one, specific statutory authorization consistent with Section 8A1 of the War Powers Resolution. The Congress declares that this section is intended to constitute specific statutory authorization within the meaning of Section 5B of the War Powers Resolution. Applicability of other requirements. Nothing in this resolution supersedes any requirement of War Powers Resolution approved on September 18, 2001. So I read that so that you can understand that this was a blanket declaration on the war on terror. Now I ask you, my brothers and sisters, was the war declared over? Or are we still at war with terror? And it's very important to note what this says, that the president is authorized to use all necessary and appropriate force against those nations, organizations, or persons he determines planned, authorized, committed, or aided in the terrorist attack that occurred on September 11, 2001, or harm such organizations or persons in order to prevent any future acts of international terrorism against the United States. Any future acts of international terrorism against the United States by such nations, organizations, or persons. Do we have a laundry list of who those terrorists are? Because I thought it was Al-Qaeda and all those affiliated with Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. And we cleared out of Afghanistan because we didn't find any weapons of mass destruction there. We had to get out of Iraq because we didn't find any weapons of mass destruction there. Barack Obama allegedly, supposedly, I think I snapped, killed Osama bin Laden using the United States military, special forces. But did anybody declare the war on terror over? So anybody who is considered a threat to the United States are considered terrorists. Any person, organization, or nation that the president can deem to be a threat to the national security of the United States is considered a terrorist and can be a nation, person, organization that the United States can declare war on. That's how the United States gets involved with backing Israel, because Israel has declared that Hamas is a terrorist nation. And so since Israel has declared that Hamas is a terrorist organization, then Americans are now saying that Hamas is a terrorist organization. But they always seem to fail to say that the people in Palestine elected Hamas to be in office to govern them. So are all those Palestinians considered terrorists as well? These are just questions I want you to ponder as the United States brings troops into the war. Just want you to understand that. So let's move on to this article so you don't think that I'm just making this up. I just can't make this up. I would not do that. Okay? Here, we went to Wikipedia. United States support for Israel in 2023, Israel-Hamas war. Okay, so let's go ahead and read. Just making sure everything is clear on your side. Let's read this together. Following the 2023 Hamas attack on Israel, the United States began to send warships and military aircraft into the eastern Mediterranean, stating that Israel will receive whatever it needs to support counteroffensive against the Hamas Gaza Strip. It also promised more military aid to Israel. On 20 October, President Biden announced that he had asked Congress for $14 billion in additional aid. On October 27th, the United States sided with Israel in rejecting the non-binding resolution passed by the United Nations General Assembly, which called for humanitarian ceasefire in the ongoing Israeli-Hamas war to allow aid to reach Gaza. A week prior to the General Assembly's resolution, the United States exercised its United Nations Security Council veto power to strike down a similar resolution. I'm going to read that again for everybody in the back. On October 27th, the United States sided with Israel in rejecting the non-binding resolution passed by the United Nations General Assembly, which called for a humanitarian ceasefire in the ongoing Israel-Hamas war to allow aid to reach Gaza. A week prior to the General Assembly resolution, the United States exercised its United Nations Security Council veto power to strike down a similar resolution. So the United States is saying, like, look, we're not caring about the babies dying. We're not caring about the people not having electricity. We're not caring about the people that's hostage. We're not caring about the hostages. We're not caring about the people not having food. What we care about is that if you to hunt, mow the lawn on Hamas and those other Palestinians that instantly gets hurt, it's just casualties of war, baby. This is war, right? And United States is 10 toes down in it. So why does it matter to me? Because I know some of us are in the military. See, this is bigger than Netanyahu and Biden. This is about a humanitarian crisis and possibly the start of World War III. If you all are history buffs, you know that the United States did not immediately jump in World War II. They were dragged in, or they were pressured to get involved. And they used Japan as a proxy for the war. Japan was raining down on China. It was about to take over all of China. And they put their nose in because they can't have that. Japan cannot have that much power. So thus you have Hiroshima and all that, these nuclear attacks and whatnot. But here it is. The United States is putting all their power backing Israel. And not only all their power, but your tax dollars as well as your family members that are now serving in the United States. So that matters. And later on, I'm going to show you another reason why it matters, because it just gets better and better. Since Israel's founding in 1948, has received $158 billion in military aid from the United States, making it the greatest recipient in history. Following Israel's victory over surrounding Arab forces in 1967, in its subsequent occupation of the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza, military assistance to the countries surged significantly. Iron Dome which became operational in 2011, was created with the help of the United States, which is responsible for providing components for the system, including allocated more than $5 billion for missile defense for Israel in 2022. Part of a record $38 billion agreement over 10 years negotiated under the former President Barack Obama in 2016, United States military aid to Israel exceeded $3.8 billion in 2023. Let me read that again. As part of a record $38 billion agreement over 10 years under former U.S. President Barack Obama in 2016, 7 years ago, U.S. military aid to Israel exceeded $3.8 billion in 2023. Of the $3.8 billion in military aid given to Israel this year, $500 million was for Israel's missile defense. Washington has announced that it will replenish Israelis' ammunition used in the recent war against Hamas. So that's why it should matter to you, because he's using your taxpayer dollars to fund the war in Israel. Now you hear them talk all the time about how Iran is fast and other Muslim nations may be funding Hamas. But you're funding Israel and have been funding Israel for a very, very long time. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Let's not be hypocritical. But the point is, the war on terror has not been declared as won. It's an ongoing war. Therefore, Congress has authorized the president to do what he deems necessary, including giving these people your money to fight an organization that they have deemed to be terrorists way over in Palestine. Hamas has done nothing to the United States. I mean, I don't remember hearing that Hamas came over here and blew up some cities. All 50 states are still standing. Hell, Hamas didn't even destroy all of Israel or the state of Israel. They just took over some cities, and then the IDF took them back. So what's the problem? Oh, it got to be more blood. They got to pay. Hamas has to pay because some Israelis died. Some other Muslims died, maybe. I don't know. But Americans died too. Americans were taken hostage as well. So Hamas has to pay. And it seems to me that anybody who lives in Palestine is considered terrorists as well. Now, you know, in war, all is fair. And someone say, well, the IDF dropped leaflets to warn the people that they should get out before the war started. Some may argue that point. But at the same time, when does it stop? How long will we continue to do this? How long will we allow the government to use your taxpayer dollars to hunt? When is enough? This is bigger than just mowing the grass. This is about monetary gain. I say it again. This is about monetary gain. And as long as there's a opposing force such as Hamas standing in their way of making their money, there will be no end to the war in Gaza, because they have plans for that land. They dropped leaflets in northern Gaza when Netanyahu first declared war on Israel. They dropped leaflets warning the people that they should seek refuge in southern Gaza because they're getting ready to bomb the place. They're getting ready to decimate it. And they did. And the people fled. They fled, even tried going to Jordan. But Jordan didn't exactly let them in, like, voluntarily. Then they tried going to Egypt. And there was a waiting list to get into Egypt. I guess they had to vet everybody to make sure they weren't members of Hamas, right? So meanwhile, they decimate the IDF decimates northern Gaza. They ramshack all the hospitals looking for hostages and looking for Hamas, destroys the hospital. People die. They don't know exactly where the hostages are, but they just bomb it indiscriminately. So what if you're doing all this bombing, trying to look for Hamas, and that's where the hostages are? Anybody ever think about that? Maybe that's why the people were saying, hey, all you're doing is thinking about yourself. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they were saying, hey, you guys are not thinking about the hostages on the military ground approach. Military troops are now going into these things and throwing missiles at them. We need a ceasefire. These are Israelis who are concerned about the hostages who are still being held up in Palestine. And the IDF is like, no, we just want to decimate everything. That's the only way we can mow the grass and root out Hamas. Now, a lot of people get all up in arms and just get flipped out when they hear Palestinians say, from the river to the sea, Palestinians will be free. But nobody is concerned about Israel's rhetoric about mowing the grass, which they are effectively doing, because guess what? Just last week, I heard that they dropped some more leaflets warning the people of the oncoming barrage of missiles and foot soldiers. And guess where they're going this time? Southern Gaza. That's where the fighting is taking place as of today, in southern Gaza. You just told them people to run to southern Gaza. You totally decimated northern Gaza. And now you're going to southern Gaza. Where are they going? That sounds like genocide of the Palestinian people. So was the Pope wrong for saying it, even though he kind of like walked it back or didn't confirm that he said it? You heard Mr. What is his name, Finkelstein, in Candace's podcast. You heard him say it's genocide, what they're doing. No regard for life. None whatsoever. And I promised you all that I was going to show you why it matters today to you, why it should matter. I gave you one reason. I gave you two, actually. The first reason is your taxpayer dollars is funding this. don't know about you, but if you pay your taxes, you expect your taxes to be used to secure the United States economically, infrastructure, forestry, agriculture, all that, right? Programs, fund the grant program for education, right? Funding WIC, Social Security, not a continuous, never-ending war on so-called terror, wherever the president deems is necessary. The taxpayer dollar is one reason why you should care. Second reason why you should care, your loved ones are in the military. If you don't have nobody in your immediate family, perhaps you have someone on your distant family, your cousin may be married to somebody that's in the military. That's family. Your sons and daughters might be in the military. That's family. People in the reserves. That's family. Another reason why you should care what's going on over there, because now the United States is in the thick of it, to the tune of $38 billion. And it's just going up and up and up. Biden has says whatever you need. So earlier today, I posted on Instagram. Here's the third reason why you should care. So let me go to my page here and pull it up. I took this one piece from a YouTube site called Today's Africa. And I'm going to share with you this post. Oh, goodness gracious. There we go. Give it a moment to load up. Share with you this post right here. They just took the land and gave it to Israel, the Israelis, and they named it Israel. They gave it to the Israeli Ashkenazi Jews, and they named the area Israel, and told the Palestinians that y'all just gonna have to learn to live with us, because the League of Nations and the United Nations gave us your land. Sounds familiar? Is that what the Pope did with Christopher Columbus when he gave him the paper to go out and do manifest destiny and subdue all the Spanish people who were in the Americas, in the Caribbean, and what they call the West Indies, which is nothing but the west coast of Africa, which majority of us come from. Afro-Palestinians, that's our people. That's why you should care. They were in Jericho. They were in Jerusalem prior to the Ashkenazi Jews coming there. Just like you had the Wichita Indians, the Choctaw Indians, the Blackfoot Indians, the Cherokee Indians here in the Americas and in the Caribbean prior to the so-called founding of the New World. That's why it should matter to you. If you don't see the massive land grab that the Israeli government is trying to do. They have the majority of what they call Israel, the majority of what was then known as Palestine, and they named it Israel. They have the majority of the landmass. Gaza, this is why they call it the Gaza Strip. The total landmass of Gaza is 5 miles by 25 miles. And you have millions of people living there on that little bitty strip of land. Not the strip, right? 5 miles by 5 miles. Everything else in Palestine is owned by the Israelis or occupied by the Israelis. And the Israelis run Gaza. They decide who goes in and who goes out. They decide what comes in and what goes out. And if you don't believe me, just research it for yourself. They control all of the infrastructure. They control when they're going to have gas, when they're going to have electricity, how they're going to get their water. The Palestinians don't control anything. And so that's why these people, Hamas, is pushing back. I'm not condoning violence. I'm not condoning terrorism. I'm not condoning, the killing of the innocent people. But as the scripture says, Ecclesiastes 7:7, surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroy the heart. Let me put that into context. Let's get the whole context of the scripture. And I'm not trying to preach, but I just want to show you that nothing that's happening right now and how people are reacting has not been written of a people before. A man is a man. And if you oppress that man, when his back is against the wall, he's going to come out fighting. And the Hamas organization and the Palestinian people have been literally living behind a wall. It says here, starting at this is Ecclesiastes chapter 7, starting at verse 4. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools. For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool. This is also vanity. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroy the heart. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. And the patient in the spirit is better than proud in spirit. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry, for anger resteth in the bosom of fools. Say not thou, what is the cause of the former days were better than these? For thou dost not inquire wisely concerning this. Netanyahu and Biden are altogether vain. And I'm going to tell you why. Because Russia has been the staunch enemy of the United States for a long time. But it was not always so. During World War II, Russia and the United States were allies. Bet you didn't know that. China and the United States have been enemies for a long, long time. But during World War II, the United States went to bat for China against Japan. The world is a stage, and there are some evil actors on the stage pulling the strings right now. And it's all for filthy lucre. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry. Did Netanyahu act out of anger when he declared war on Gaza? He was angry that he was caught slipping, that the IDF failed to protect the Israeli people. That's not what I'm pacificating. That's what the people who are there, who were hostages and had loved ones that's still hostage, that's what they said. That the IDF fell, so now you're wounded. You're like a little wounded dog looking for revenge, acting out of anger, acting hastily, and destroying the lives of thousands of people, if not millions of people. Millions are displaced right now in Gaza. Where they go? They have no food, they have no water, there is no electricity. They're so-called working to restore electricity in those hospitals. They so-called know that the hostages were wounded. How do you know that? Because the people came back and told you, hey, they got the people that we left behind. They're sick and they're wounded. They got shrapnel in their skin. But where are they going to go to get help? If the hostages were at the hospitals, well, shoot. They dismantled those hospitals, turned electricity off, stopped fuel from coming in. Did not give a damn about the innocent people. Did not care if maybe the hostages was really there. Destroying hospitals indiscriminately. And now they're working their way to southern Gaza, where they told the people to flee. Hasty decisions done out of anger with no regard for life. And when I say this is about filthy lucre, and that this is Netanyahu is just looking for, like he's like, give me a reason. Give me a reason to get my troops into Gaza so I can go ahead and go along with my plan that I've been planning and had planned out for a very long time. You think I'm getting this up? It's about a land grab. This is not about ruling Hamas. Because just like their Jewish newspaper said that you can never get rid of Hamas. Hamas is not a tangible object. It is an ideology. They just happen to be elected by the people. Evidently, the people like that ideology. So you can never get rid of the ideology of to be from under the Israeli government. They want to be a self-governing nation. Two-state solution, remember? They want to be a nation of them. No, but if Israelis want to hold these people hostage, you talk about hostages, these people have been held hostage, oppressed since 1948. And you may say, oh damn, oh Cody, why you jeffing for these people way over there? I just showed you why. Afro-Palestinians. Let me get this other one. Let me get the other Instagram post I put up today, because y'all not hearing me. Let's see. I could just say that somebody's going to shoot off on them Palestinians. But whoa. The media don't show you there's millions of people on a 5-mile by 25-mile strip of land, and some of them look just like us. And we're saying that's none of our business. We're saying it ain't got nothing to do with us. Yes, it does. Servicemen and women gonna be over there fighting against your own people, and they're innocent. They did not do anything. Ask me again, why should we care? Say again, are we that vain? That's the third reason why you should care. Afro-Palestinian. First is your tax dollars. Second is your military family members. And third is there's Afro-Palestinians over there that looks just like us. And so that's what they're us. They told you to come from Senegal, Nigeria, Sudan. When you do your DNA, you believe in that. Where they say you come from, continent of Africa. African blood in your system. Right? That's why you should care. That's why you should care. Why do we continue to let them tell us how to think and what to think? I'm going to now move to this commentary that I promised that I would get to share, because I was just absolutely floored. I was just absolutely surprised of, at the behavior and the opinion of Seneca Scott. If I can see these things, then surely an educated brother such as Seneca could see these things. Now, as I reported during last Sunday's episode, News, Facts, and Comments Sunday Wrap session, by the way, join every Sunday at 5 p.m. as I give you the news that has transpired over the week. News I think you can use, and news I think you should know about, right? So I mentioned that the city of the city of Oakland out in California passed some type of resolution to demand a ceasefire, which happened. They did do the ceasefire, lasted for 1 week, and then last Friday they started bombing again, and they started in southern Gaza. But Oakland asked for the ceasefire, and a lot of people were up, and they were just dumbfounded, I guess, for lack of better words, including the governor, Governor Newsom. They wanted the Oakland City Council to proclaim that Hamas was a terrorist organization and just flat out condemn Hamas's action. And they wanted that language to be placed in the resolution that was voted on and passed by the city council asking for a ceasefire. So as a result of that, Seneca Scott, who's an activist out there in Oakland, has been an activist for a long time. He even ran for mayor of the city of Oakland, but he lost, right? He published this opinion piece in Newsweek. So I promised my audience from Sunday that I would share this opinion piece with you all and then give my commentary on it. This is what really motivated me to bring this information that I'm bringing forth today about how we have been led to think about that conflict in some very ignorant ways. And I'm not trying to be, bad talk anyone. Ignorance just means that you don't know. I'm not saying it in a slanderous, derogatory way. Ignorant just means that you don't know. And I know I can tell from the comments that came about, throughout the course since October 7th, all the comments from my people, that we're saying these things out of ignorance. And if anybody can deny those 3 reasons that I gave as to why you should be concerned, if you're going to deny those reasons, then you're drinking the Kool-Aid just as much as the Zionists. You're working with the Zionists. And if you don't know what that's about, you go back on my YouTube channel and watch my video when I talk about freedom of speech, because I lay it all out about Zionism and anti-Semitism and freedom of speech, right? So this brother here, Seneca Scott, has exercised his freedom of speech, and he wrote this opinion piece, right? So in response to the Oakland City voting a resolution asking for a ceasefire. That was the point of the resolution. They wanted a ceasefire because it was causing all of the war efforts by IDF was causing a humanitarian crisis. People didn't have water, didn't have electricity, just basic necessities to live. Okay? So it says Oakland City Council's bootlicking for Hamas. This is your brain on woke progressivism. Opinion. This is the opinion of Seneca Scott, one of us, so to speak. Let's say, I just want to know if y'all agree, right? Let's go ahead and watch this video.
Babies and rapings. Israel murdered their own people on October 7th.
Calling Hamas a terrorist organization is ridiculous, racist, and plays into genocidal propaganda that is flooding our media and that we should be doing everything possible to combat.
I support the right of Palestinians to resist occupation, including through Hamas, the armed wing of the unified Palestinian resistance. As an Arab, asking with this context to condemn Hamas is very anti-Arab racist.
Question. Did anyone else notice that those who oppose this resolution are old white supremacists?
Okay, so let's go back and read the article now. That was some of the comments that some of the people in the audience, some of the citizens of Oakland, stood up to voice their opinion. All right. So this is how Seneca Scott responded. Oakland has TikTok brain and it shows. A video went viral this week showing Oakland residents expressing strong support for Hamas during a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Hamas's war with Israel. After Jewish council member Dan Cobb sought permission from the resolution's author, council member Carol Fife, to include a single word condemnation of Hamas, the chamber erupted with approval from pro-Hamas activists. Cobb, a veteran progressive council member, was bid as an old white racist for his proposed amendment. In the aftermath, Governor Newsom publicly condemned Hamas and said, Hamas is a terrorist organization. They must be called out for what they are, evil. And State Senator Scott Wiener criticized the Oakland City Council for unanimously approving the resolution without incorporating the amendment condemning Hamas. Other reactions ran the gamut from disgust to outrage. One thing no one should be is shocked. The meeting was par for the course in today's current theme, politics. The embrace of Hamas is just the last iteration of the woke progressive mindset. The truth is that these woke crusaders cosplaying revolutionaries don't really care about the plight of suffering Palestinians or any Muslims. despite their screeches about Islamophobia. If they did, we would have witnessed a comparable demand and end to the Myanmar Rohingya genocide and ethnic cleansing, where over 10,000 Muslims, including women, children, and newborns, were killed. More than 300 villages were burned down, and over 700,000 were forced to flee to Bangladesh in search for safety. And what could the civil war in Yemen? And what about the civil war in Yemen, where estimates suggest that more than 227,000 Muslims have died due to ongoing famine and lack of health care, or the genocide in Uyghur Muslims in or the genocide of Uyghur Muslims in China. As a final testament to their hypocrisy, a scared intrinsic intersectionality has been abandoned for the latest thing. Note the conspicuous absence of Black Lives Matter or defund the police signs or rhetoric at Oakland's now infamous council meeting. It all boiled down to freeing Palestine and bootlicking for Hamas. Israel's blockade of Gaza is indeed reprehensible. Attempting to maintain 2 million people under the condition prevailing in Gaza is a recipe for a disaster. Yet it's obvious to anyone with eyes that Hamas is killing Israelis to liberate themselves or to achieve peace. Their brutality and barbarity in attacking the innocent belies any claims to the contrary. Refraining from defending Hamas should be a straightforward and essential stance. Sadly, Oakland City Council failed this simple test. It's essential to note that the resolution prompted a special meeting bringing Oakland taxpayers covering the cost amounting to thousands of dollars for what appears to be a purely performative resolution. Oakland, grappling with record poverty, crime, and rapid retail theft, alongside significant budget deficits hindering investments in public safety, cannot afford to indulge the nihilistic narcissism prevailing among politicians like Fife and her supporters. This trend of performative actions has contributed to Oakland's current state, a city without a rule of law, witnessing businesses shuttering and residents fleeing in unprecedented numbers. Oakland deserves a functional government with well-ordered priorities. We will soon have the opportunity to effect change with an imminent recall of district crucial elections in 2024 for the majority of the city council, including Councilmember Fife. The performative pro-Hamas spectacle painted Oakland in an awful light, though sadly in Act One. It's time for change. Performative, hypocritical virtue signaling is the hallmark of white folk progressives. And wherever they exist, you can find average people paying the price for their vanity. Scott is a former organizer with SEIU Local 2021 and the founder and director of Together Oakland. Okay, so again, I asked Mr. Scott, do you not see how the United States and Israel are hand in hand with destroying the lives of many Palestinians, and that the city of Oakland simply put out a resolution calling for a ceasefire? A ceasefire so that people can get humanitarian aid. So this article written by Mr. Scott is hypocritical at best. He some unresolved anger, right? So you mean to tell me that you're supporting Israel going in killing innocent Palestinians because Hamas killed innocent Israelis. I was always told two wrongs don't make a right. And for him to say that it's a horrible waste of taxpayer dollars, Mr. Scott, are you not appalled? Are you not appalled that the United States is in your taxpayer dollars to Israel to fight Hamas? We're funding Israel. Is he not appalled? Is he not upset that some of his family members or distant family members may be sent to Israel to help fight so-called Hamas? From where I'm seeing, you know, like Hamas is nowhere to be found. But Israel is steady bombing the place. I'm not hearing reports of retaliation by Hamas on Israel. I'm not hearing that. And if I'm wrong, somebody please send it to me, you know, and let me know when it happened, since they declared the war on Gaza. Do we have a back and forth of exchange of air missiles and whatnot? Where are the hostages? If they didn't find them in northern Gaza, now you're going to go bomb southern Gaza. Do you know that that's where the hostages are? That's why you're now going there? So what if you bomb the place where they at? So now the hostages die. What sense does that make? And Mr. Seneca, I ask again, like, you talk about the white wokeness of the city council for saying that they want a ceasefire. They said they wanted a ceasefire, but a whole lot of Israelis wanted a ceasefire, including those that were hostage. So was the Oakland City Council wrong for saying they want a ceasefire, or are you just mad because you lost the election? Or are you trying to drum up support for your next mayoral run? Are you going to run for one of them city council seats that you say will be available in 2024? Is that what this is about? You land blast those people for standing, for saying that they want humanitarian intervention in what's going on over there in Gaza. But y'all mad because they didn't say, we condemn Hamas. We condemn Hamas, but we want y'all to stop shooting them, so they can have humanitarian aid come in. That's what Seneca wanted them to say. That's that one council member who put forth that amendment. That's what they wanted them to say. You condemn the city of Oakland city council members condemn Hamas, and we want a ceasefire. Why are they trying to tell these people how to talk or what to feel? Just like Israel, the state of Israel has a right to exist. Well, doesn't the Palestinians and the government Hamas have a right to exist? Just because you declare they're terrorists, they're supposed to say, okay, we're terrorists, so we don't have no rights. We don't have no rights because y'all say y'all have declared that we're terrorists. But nobody is talking about how the Israeli government has systematically deported Africans. Oh, yeah. And I'm not talking about a long time ago. I'm talking about in the 21st century, last year, deporting Africans. You can't stay here. They say, I don't care where you go, but you can't stay here. Only for Israelis. What about the brothers and sisters that have the Hebrew Israelite village in Dimona, right outside of Israel? Right outside, right outside like in the southern, like that. They wanted to take over their whole compound. They out there living their best life off the grid. Got their own housing, their own schools, their own a whole community. And the Israeli government wanted to take it over. Luckily for them, they received a stay and they're still on their land. But please believe, Netanyahu gonna revisit that land because he's adamant about pushing his agenda. And his agenda is about securing all of what we know as Palestine, what they have deemed as the Israel state, because they say Balfour Declaration gave us all this land. You guys are not wanted here. Even though they were there, you were here before we got here. Y'all ain't wanted here. So we just gonna take over everything. And if you don't like it, we're just gonna hold you hostage to our government. And no, you can't have no nation state of your own. Sounds familiar, people? You see why we can't be a nation within a nation? You see why I say we're all political prisoners of the war, the ethnic war, the ethnocide that took place during what they have deemed the transatlantic slave trade. It wasn't no trade. We were taken as political prisoners. It was a war declared on what the Pope called savages and barbarians. That's how they labeled us. As savages and barbarians, they declared war on us, and they took us, and they kept us, and they held us in captivity, and so therefore that makes us political prisoners of war. So are people over there in Palestine, because they're not free to move about. They're not free to exercise their right to self-determination, to govern themselves. You see why it matters, people? So the next time I hear a black person say, oh, that ain't got nothing to do with me, what are you saying out of your mouth? Are you that vain? Altogether vain. Altogether vanity. Because you're believing the rhetoric. Here's why they want the land. Where is it? Out of his mouth. Netanyahu, the prime minister of the state of Israel. I want to move along till he holds up the map. He's speaking at the United Nations. But I don't want to bore you. I want to hear what he said here and how it plays along with Mowing the Grass.
Was established. Israel in 1948. It's a tiny, isolated, surrounded by a hostile Arab world. In our first 7 years, we made peace with Egypt and Jordan. And then in 2020, we made the Abraham Accords, peace with other 4 Arab states. Now look at what happens when we make peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel. The whole Middle East changes. We tear down the walls of enmity. We bring the possibility of prosperity and peace to this entire region. But we do something else. You know, a few years ago, I stood here with a red mark to show the curse, a great curse, the curse of a nuclear Iran. But today I bring this marker to show a great blessing, the blessing of a new Middle East between Israel, Saudi Arabia, and our other neighbors. We will not only bring down barriers between Israel and our neighbors, we'll build a new corridor of peace and prosperity that connects Asia through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan to Europe. This is an extraordinary change, a monumental change, another pivot of history. Now, as the circle of peace expands, I believe that a real path towards a genuine peace with our Palestinian neighbors can finally be achieved. But there's a caveat. It has to be said here, forcefully. Peace can only be achieved if it is based on truth. It cannot be based on lies. It cannot be based on endless vilification of the Jewish people. Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas must stop spreading the horrible anti-Semitic conspiracies against the Jewish people and the Jewish state. I mean, he recently said that Hitler wasn't an anti-Semite. You can't make this up. But he did. He said that. And the Palestinian Authority must stop glorifying terrorists. They must stop its ghoulish pay-to-slay policy of giving money to Palestinian terrorists for the murder of Jews. This is all outrageous. It must stop for peace to prevail. And anti-Semitism must be rejected wherever it appears, whether on the
Okay, so for some, that didn't want me to finish playing. Y'all hearing that? Okay. Let's see here. Wow.
policy of giving money to Palestinian terrorists for the murder of Jews. This is all outrageous. It must stop.
I think they must be tracking me, right? Because they put the video back a little bit, tracking me. They mentioned anti-Semitism.
And anti-Semitism must be rejected wherever it is, whether on the left or on the right, whether in the halls of universities or in the halls of the United Nations. For peace to prevail, the Palestinians must stop spewing new hatred, finally reconcile themselves to the Jewish state. By that I mean not only to the existence of the Jewish state, but to the right of the Jews to have a state of their own in their historic homeland, the land of Israel. And let me tell you, the people of Israel yearn for such a peace. I yearn for such a peace. As a young soldier over half a century ago, my comrades and I in Israel's special forces faced mortal dangers on many fronts, on many battlefields, from the warm waters of the Suez Canal to the frozen slopes of Mount Hermon, from the banks of the Jordan River to the tarmac of Beirut Airport. These experiences and other experiences taught me the cost of war. A fellow soldier was killed next to me. Another died in my arms. I buried my older brother. Those who personally suffered the curse of war can best appreciate the blessings of peace. Now, there are many hurdles on the path to peace. There are many hurdles on the extraordinary path to peace that I've just described. But I'm committed to doing everything I can to overcome these hurdles, to forge a better future for Israel and all of our peoples, all the peoples in our region. 2 days ago,
notice he didn't say the Palestinians.
2 days ago,
Say all the people.
I discussed this vision of peace with President Biden. We share this optimism for what can be achieved. And I deeply appreciate his commitment to seize this historic opportunity. The United States of America is indispensable in this effort. And just as we achieved the Abraham Accords, of President Trump, I believe we can achieve peace with Saudi Arabia with the leadership of President Biden. Working together, the leadership of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, we can shape a future of great blessings for all our peoples. Now, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you know there's a flank in this movement. Because rest assured, the fanatics ruling Iran will do everything they can to thwart the historic peace. Iran continues to spend billions to arm its terror proxies. It continues to extend its terror tentacles in the Middle East, Europe, Asia, South America, even North America. They even tried to assassinate Secretary of State of the United States of America. They even tried to assassinate the National Security Advisor of the United States of America. This tells you all you need to know about Iran's murderous intentions and Iran's murderous nature. Iran continues to threaten international shipping lanes, hold foreign nationals for ransom, and engage in nuclear blackmail. Over the past year, its murderous goons have killed hundreds and arrested thousands of Iran's brave citizens. Iran's drones and missile program threaten Israel and our Arab neighbors, and Iran's drones have brought and bring death and destruction to innocent people in the Ukraine. Yet the regime's aggression is led by indifference in the international community. 8 years ago, the Western powers promised that if Iran violated the nuclear deal, the sanctions would be snapped back. Well, Iran is violating the deal, but the sanctions have not been snapped back. To stop Iran's nuclear ambitions, this policy must change. Sanctions must be snapped back. And above all, Iran faces a credible nuclear threat. As long as I'm Prime Minister of Israel, I will do everything in my power to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons.
Okay, so as you can see, he wants to have peace in the Middle East. And he's doing that by declaring war on Gaza. But why, you may ask, Akoti, why are you trying to relate this to monetary gain? Well, I'm going to show you why. He touted peace among all the Arab nations, making sure he gets that peace with all the Arab nations. This is why. This article was done in 2020. Know if you all know about China's Silk Road Initiative with a massive pipeline that's going to go through all of Asia into Europe. Well, Netanyahu has plans to put a pipeline from Saudi Arabia to Europe. That, my friends, is what this is about, because they have to go through Gaza to get to Europe. Making sense now? And we're taxpayer dollars. Your taxpayer dollars are funding this. This article states, Israel pushes forward with plans for new gas pipeline to Gaza, report. Energy minister said to order finalization of plans of project that could significantly downscale the strip's dependence on LC cut down shortages. Right? This is about money, energy, the energy sector, the petrodollar. Okay? A long percolating plan to build a gas pipeline to the Gaza Strip, which would greatly reduce Palestinians' enclave dependence on outside electricity, is moving forward after a pledge of European funding for the project's planning, the Catalyst Business Daily reported Monday. Energy Minister Yuval Stenitz has instructed government-owned Israel natural gas lines to finalize plans for the project following a series of meetings of the initiative, the paper said. Funding of the planning stage estimated in sums this $10 million. 10 million, I guess that's their currency. 10 million and is equivalent to $2.8 million. Is set to be provided by European sources, probably the Netherlands, it added. Please believe, since this article was published, the United States is in on this, using your taxpayer dollars. News comes amid ongoing reports of a long-term ceasefire deal shaping up between Israel and the Hamas terror group, which rules Gaza. The pipeline has been cited in recent months as one of the alleged stipulations of the accord. So, my friends, if Gaza is saying, if the leadership in Gaza is saying, no, we don't want this pipeline running through our sovereign state, nation, whatever they have going on, where they govern, then could this be the reason why these people are pushing back on Israel? Because they're violating their right to be free to govern themselves and decide what infrastructure they want, decide how they want their people to eat, decide what resources they're going to have. They no longer want to be controlled by Israel. But Israel is saying, we're going to put this pipeline through here. And that's going to be a way for us to make peace with all these Arab nations, because the pipeline is going to start there. Y'all know Saudi Arabia is rich with oil. OPEC. Hello. So as the petrodollar is plummeting, they have to get on force so that they can have that flow of oil go to Europe, because Europe is now, struggling because most of their oil was coming from gas or whatever, coming from Russia. And Russia's like, okay, so y'all don't want to give us Ukraine, and you ain't gonna get no more oil. You ain't gonna get more gas. So this is why it's very important that Netanyahu don't let on Hamas, because Hamas is standing in the way of what? The pipeline. Hear what I said? They're standing in the way of the pipeline. The pipeline could transfer up to 1 billion cubic meters of gas from the Negev to the Strip every year, allowing the construction and operation of local power plants that would be able to supply nearly all Gaza's electricity needs. But supply all of Gaza's electricity, we trying to make it saving Gaza and having Gaza have this important infrastructure. But Israel controls it. Israel determines whether or not they have lights, electricity, gas. You heard the man just say they turned off the gas to the hospitals so the incubators couldn't even work. Gaza currently has a single small power plant dependent on the Israel Electric Corporation, as well as Egypt, for much of this power. The Strip has for years suffered from a power crisis amid funding disputes between Hamas and the West Bank Palestinian Authority, and residents only enjoy power for parts of the day. Plans for the pipeline have existed since 2015, but have been repeatedly hindered by cross-border violence and political considerations on both sides. So disputes between Hamas and the West Bank-based Palestinian Authority, that is the people that are in cahoots. On conflict, get in the picture now. Your petrol on this pipeline going to Gaza, and if they decimate all of Gaza and all the Palestinians are pushed out, then they could be free to do whatever they want to do with the land. Shoot, they got billions of dollars. They could just rebuild all of that. And guess what they're going to do? Put their people. They're going to expand their territory. What do you call it here in the United States? They're going to be annexed in. And that's going to be part of the Gaza Strip. Is now going to be part of the Israeli state, even though it is already a part of the Israeli state because they control everything. They want to make it official with no pushback. That's why they got to mow the grass on Hamas. And in the process, kill innocent people. So don't ask me why I'm so concerned. It's not that I'm really so concerned in the way that you think. It's just that I'm paying attention. And Mr. Seneca, yeah, I'm woke to what's really going on and how we that do not see that Hamas had rights to govern themselves, if we can't see that, then we still asleep. Do you think that you have a right to self-determination? Do you think you have a right to assemble yourselves together, gather yourselves together? Oh yeah, gather yourselves together, O nation not desired. You think you have a right to gather yourselves together and be independent of an oppressive government? See why it matters? A fight for liberation anywhere in this world is the same as the fight for liberation here in the Americas. From the river to the sea, Palestinians will be free from the oppressors. We do not, they're saying we no longer want to be under the gun or under the lawnmower of Netanyahu IDF regime. You notice again how in this article, they did not refer to Hamas as a government. They refer to them as a terror group. The new and ongoing reports of a long-term ceasefire deal shaping up between Israel and the Hamas terror group. I thought it was supposed to be between Israel and the state of Palestine and the Palestinian people. The people were in danger of losing their lives. That's why they were calling it a ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. Who's doing the firing? Who started this? Goes back all the way back to 1948. Surely oppression will make a wise man mad. I think that we all can say that this is very concerning, that we should be concerned. And if you're not concerned, shame on you. Shame on you. Two-state solution should be on the table. Ceasefire should be adhered to. United Nations has troops and are supposed to be that wing that comes in and act on behalf of the people. I just don't see them doing anything about this. Where are the UN troops? Oh, they're not going to go against Netanyahu. That's what they're not going to do. That's what they're not going to do. When does the war on terror end? And how long are they going to use your taxpayer dollars to fund their war? How long are they going to send your sons, your daughters, your aunties, your uncle, your children, you know, your mama, your daddy, your kinfolk to fund, to help so-called defeat Hamas? How long you going to stand for without saying, hey, there's something seriously wrong with this picture? Do we turn a blind eye to injustice while we scream and shout over here about injustices done to us? Don't y'all see it's the same framework, the same people groups that's doing this? You have got to be blind and ignorant and asleep if you can't see the handwriting on the wall. They're telling you how to think. They're telling you how to feel. They're telling you what to say. We should not be given over to every whim of doctrine. It's just not logical. Now, to end this, I want to give you a feel of what our people are saying, some in ignorance and some coming from a woke standpoint. I want to share with you a post that I saw on Instagram a couple of days ago. The post came from Jonathan Judah Isaac. He's a basketball player. So I saw this. He has a clothing line called We Are United, right? United, right? So this was the post. I am with Israel. If you have that shirt on, what you're effectively saying is that you agree with Israel, their attempt to totally annihilate a whole group of people, genocide, ethnic cleansing. So Jonas writes on this post, the harder it is to stand simply, shows the more you have to. I'm gonna make sure you guys are seeing this. Okay, great. Back to the post. I decided to use my resources through at We Are United to show tangible support for Israel in their fight against terrorism. All profits from our I Stand With Israel keys will go to at United Hezbollah of Israel. I didn't make it up. This is where all these profits is going. Hezbollah of Israel and other nonprofits to join in our efforts to grab a t-shirt at the link in my bio. So I wrote, and it looks like maybe my comment was the last comment 2 days ago. I said, I guess for the love of money, gotta get that bag, riding that train till the wheels fall off on the way to the pits of hell. Hashtag wake up, Judah. Somebody else said that Beverly Tarr said, love it. Thank you for standing for humanity. What? Did I not tell y'all about the humanitarian crisis and how Israel is going over there, the IDF is going over there and indiscriminately killing babies, children, and whoever is in the way? without regard for any life, with no regard for age, no regard for condition, life condition? New replies. Let's just see. Jeremy Jacobs at Beverly Tall. Where's the humanity in killing children by airstrikes as they sleep? Serious question. Mountain underscore life 20 at Jeremy Jacobs. Don't even bother. This is just more propaganda to dehumanize Palestinians by referring to the Jews as humanity. The religious brainwashing is so strong, they think they're God's chosen people as they kill kids. Right, that part. Is that what God's children is supposed to be doing in this hour? Again, I asked, did God tell them to do that? No, I believe it was Netanyahu who said, I declare war out of anger. Surely oppression make a wise man mad. Iceman from Twitter, at Jacob Jeremy. If Jonathan was called out because of the color of his skin, then it is an issue he wouldn't appreciate. He wouldn't appreciate it. Yet he can't understand by looking at the images of thousands of kids being killed and think to himself, that's not right. In actual fact, he has been brainwashed by the U.S. government, the very same U.S. government that allows for the racial hatred between whites and blacks, who still cannot fix white police brutality on the black man. Iceman is exactly right. If you can't see the inhumane treatment that the IDF is dishing out to the Palestinians in this hour, you are blind or asleep. Is Blake Ho, love killing kids, gonna cop immediately, meaning he's gonna get a shirt immediately. I think he was saying that as satirical, or it wasn't. This isn't just right. It's like making a joke, right? You got to be joking. He got 18 replies. Sally 82. Neither am I, child. I don't understand how that's going. Cassie 1 says you must not have a good argument if you keep throwing insults like a child. Okay, so that's not really the point. They got their little internal thing going on. And then so Jason Kinvigs says, damn, buddy, supported you until this. Try to see past everything you see on the news. Wow. So that means I think, Mr. Unitas has lost Jason as a supporter. Mr. Michael Dixon says, this is the mortal stand. Thank you for speaking out and standing up. Inspiring. Wow. Adam Weinstein III, Johanna, I recognize the boldness. However, as a person of Jewish heritage myself and now Christian, I question whether or not the state of Israel is in the right one on this, right? I urge you to pray more on this. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Salute, Adam. Italy Lokovic, thank you so much. We love you from Israel. Roger that. They're not gonna like this, which is how you know it's the truth. So because you say he's standing with Israel, and because we don't like that fact, so he's standing for truth. Where's the truth? This is the truth. United States is funding this war. Our brothers and sisters, some of his relatives, or someone he knows has relatives that's going to be over there fighting in this war. And there are people that look just like him, and you all that's probably listening right now. There are Afro-Palestinians over there who will die. as a result of Netanyahu and IDF being right on this one. How can you see the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and stand with Israel? This is super out of touch. And I agree with Will Rambler. So this is the back and forth that you'll see on social media these days. I want to read this last one. Molina, your brand at We Are United's mission statement is to bring people together by championing faith, family, and freedom. I question how you can bring people together when you actively support a genocidal ethno-state and is apartheid against Palestinian people. Your brand stands for families. What about Palestinian families? Your brand stands for faith. Which faith? Only the faiths you personally deem worthy of support, Christianity and Judaism. And whose freedom? Certainly not the freedom of the millions of Palestinians being held captive in an open-air prison within which their oppressors deny them access to the necessities of life, whilst murdering women and children in droves. You have let down your Arab and Muslim fans greatly. You are lost. I hope you find your way to the truth and support the freedom of Palestinian families who are deserving of peace. Now, I'm just going to say this because this just dropped in my spirit, and I'm in this broadcast. If the river to the sea, all Palestinians should be free, means that Palestinians want to annihilate all of the Israeli people, then why are there still hostages alive? I mean, they have every opportunity right now. They got them in their custody. They could just go ahead and off them, right? If that's what that phrase means. Mowing the lawn. Mowing the lawn. It's happening right now. And they made it absolutely clear that they're going to be relentless in mowing the lawn in Gaza in an attempt to eradicate all of the Palestinian people because they support Hamas. They're not even asking if you support or not Hamas or not. They're just bombing you. If they got troops on the ground, what you think the troops are doing? Handing out lollipops? They're there armed with weapons to kill anyone who tries to stop them from looking for Hamas. They said you better run. They drop leaflets in northern Gaza, now in southern Gaza, and say, get out of here. We don't care where you go, but you got to leave here if you want to live. And then when you go out there towards Egypt or go out there towards Jordan, I hope you bring some food, some water with you. You're going to die in the desert. We don't care because we got to get this pipeline through here so we can save the petrodollar. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. As usual, it's always a blessing to bring my people the news in my commentary with the facts. Be sure to join me on Sunday, every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central Time for NFNC Sunday Rap Session where we discuss the news. I bring the facts and give a little commentary. We have Black Excellence. We highlight social media platforms that's out here doing the work, trying to wake up our people. I thank you for tuning in, and if you stayed the whole time, shouts out to you. I pray you understand why this matters. You should be saying you're pro-Hamas, but you should be saying and you want the people of Palestine to be free from the oppression, just like you want to be free from your oppression here. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I am Makoti Speaks. News, facts, and comments. And I want to say once again, thank you for watching. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out. If you haven't subscribed to Makoti Speaks, feel free to do so. And don't forget to join us on Thursday for a special presentation, a special interview about the homeless crisis here in America. And so I'm going to share that with you. Just 1 second. Let me go ahead and share that with you. I do appreciate you tuning in on this Thursday. We will address current homeless problem in America with our guest April Norris and Kenneth Patterson. This Thursday, December 14th, 7 p.m. on Major TV, Let's Talk, and Makoti Speaks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wishing y'all love, peace, and prosperity. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. One love and shalom.
One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three, just to make sure you ready. Four, let them know that we run this town. One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three, just to make sure you ready. Four, let them know that we run. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You are now tuned in to the greatest. The greatest of all time. The greatest of all time.
I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be better.
One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three, just to make sure you ready. Four, let them know that we run this town. One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three, just to make sure you ready.